He gets called out every single week for the lies. Of course, ahead of the budget, we've witnessed U-turn after U-turn. After U-turn from this Labor government, we know that they're breaking their manifesto. However, can't admit to what they're doing. They are merely trying to gaslight, blame, and lie repeatedly in the House of Commons, and are run away from any accountability whatsoever. Deflection, always deflection, and again, not owning their decisions. It's an awful embarrassment to witness. And of course, the armor goes in and erupts into a full meltdown as his lies are exposed ahead of the budget. Guys, we're going to be watching this, but as always, please hit the like button and press the subscribe button for more. You've seen the situation of this country. Leader of the opposition. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate our side of the House with the words the Prime Minister made about James Elliott? Can the Prime Minister tell us why his government is the only government in history to float increased income tax rates only to then U-turn on it all after the actual budget? Minister. Well, Al Former, the budget's actually next week, after the budget has only got 1 week to go. But I can assure her it'll be a Labor budget, Mr. Speaker, with Labor ideals. That means we will concentrate on decreasing NHS waiting lists, cutting debt, and cutting the cost of living. And because of the decisions we've already made, inflation is down this morning. The Bank of England have upgraded growth. We secured a record £230 billion of investment into our country under this government. So, well, Mr. Speaker, he says the budget is next week, but we read all about it in the papers. This is the first budget to unravel before it's even been presented. The Chancellor's cluelessness, I'm afraid, is harming the economy. Now, the Prime Minister needs to halt this shambles. So, can he declare today that he won't break another commitment by freezing income tax thresholds? Mr. Speaker, that the budget is 1 week today, and we will put out our ideas. But what we won't do, Mr. Speaker, I've said what we will do in terms of protecting the NHS and public services. What we won't do is inflict all austerity on the country, as they did cause tremendous. What we won't do is inflict a borrowing spree like this trusted also inflicted and did huge damage. Mr. Speaker, have they learned anything? She's evidently got a golden economic rule. I think. So, it's really significant rule, this golden rule, that this is £47 billion of cuts with no detail. No wonder the Institute of Government says they're on very unstable foundations. They haven't listened, and they haven't learned. Mr. Speaker, it is fairly evident that they are going to freeze criteria. We didn't obtain a clear answer from them. But this is incredibly crucial because in her budget speech last year, the Chancellor said, and I quote, "I am following every single promise on tax that I made in our manifesto. So there will be no extension of the freeze in income tax and national insurance thresholds." Why was freezing thresholds a breach of the manifesto last year? But it isn't this year. Mr. Speaker, every week she comes along and speculates and distorts. Last year, Mr. Speaker, last year they predicted a recession. And what do we get? The fastest expanding economy in the G7 in the first half of the year. They opposed NHS investment. And what do we get? 5 million extra appointments in the first year of a Labor government. They tried growing the economy with millions on NHS waiting lists with our schools deteriorating and holes in narrow. It didn't work. What they want to do now, go return to the same failed experiment. Mr. Speaker, he talks about speculation. The only people who've been speculating are his government every single day for the last 3 months. And he mentioned inflation, in his last answer. Inflation has virtually doubled since they came into government. He wants a round of applause because it's come down a little bit. I will remind him that food inflation is up 4.9%. That is making life difficult for all of those people out there. But let's get back to thresholds because this is crucial. When the Chancellor made that commitment to unfreeze the thresholds, it wasn't an off-the-cuff comment. She mentioned it on the floor of this House in her budget speech. That was a deliberate expression of government policy. So if she betrays such a clear promise, how can the public trust a word that she says next week? Mr. Speaker, she talked about inflation. It went to 11% on 11%. and the country is still paying the price. Inflation is down this morning. Wages are higher, and we've had 5 interest rate cuts. And that's because our fiscal rules are solid. Both the head of the opposition and the party office have no credibility on the economy. She was Treasury Minister amid the worst decrease in living standards on record. And she added that Liz Truss got the mini budget 100% perfect. Not much space for flexibility there. 100%. That's really full marks, Mr. Speaker. She might want to notify us if that's still her position. 100% right for Liz Truss. Mr. Speaker, I was Treasury Minister at the height of the pandemic. We cleaned up that mess. Maybe he could clean up some of his own mess. And I'm going to repeat what the Chancellor said, because it's quite evident that the whole front bench has forgotten. She remarked, I have reached the view that extending the threshold freeze would damage working people. It would take more money out of their pay stubs. And yet, that's what they're preparing to do next week. And all of this opposition is having real-world implications. Just this morning, the UK head of ExxonMobil said, and I quote, the government needs to understand that the whole industrial base of the UK is at risk unless they wake up and realize the damage their economic policies are doing. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister tell us as a loss of UK industry the price the country has to pay for having a clueless Chancellor? Mr. Speaker, please let me just remark about ExxonMobil. It is a challenging time for the workforce there, and we must focus on supporting them. We've been meeting the corporation for over 6 months, and explored every available reasonable avenue. They've been facing losses for the last 5 years. It's important to do the detail before you chant her. And they're currently losing £1 million a week. But she talks about strategy and approach on energy policy. She follows reform on the European Convention. She follows the man who wants her job. And when her shadow minister suggested we should deport people lawfully here to promote cultural coherence, she lied that it didn't happen. I could go on. She was a trade secretary that didn't sign any trade treaties. Cheerleader for the short budget. Cheerleader for free borders. And when they were collapsing the economy, botching Brexit, and running down the NHS, she was right at the middle. She hasn't got an ounce of credibility. Not, Mr. Speaker, on energy policy, what we are doing is listening to industry. What happened? I had around. Mr. Slinger, please. We don't want to have to toss you out. Mr. Speaker, just this morning we heard from the chair of one of our largest energy corporations. Last week, I held a roundtable with energy companies, and what they had to say about this Prime Minister and his energy secretary is unprintable. They are absolutely furious. Our oil and gas industry is dying, and he's standing there saying he had meetings. People out there are struggling. Mr. Speaker, the budget chaos is causing real anxiety. People aren't buying properties. Businesses aren't hiring, and they are canceling investment decisions. 2 weeks ago, the Chancellor staged a ridiculous press conference to blame everyone else for her having to raise income tax. Then last week, she U-turned on her own U-turn. Instead, we can see they're planning to freeze income tax thresholds. Something she stated last year will be a contravention of their manifesto. They are making it up as they go along. Doesn't the country deserve better than government by guesswork? Mr. Speaker, either we revitalize our country with labor, or we go back to austerity 2.0 with reform of the tourists. They left waiting lines at record highs, almost 1 million extra children in poverty, and they devastated our public services. She came here to speak down the country. We're flipping the page. More NHS appointments, free breakfast clubs, free child care, more housing, and better public services. That's what we're fighting for. A Britain built for all. Guys, what did you make of that? Do let me know your ideas down there in the comments area below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe.